I suck at Jiu Jitsu. How do I suck less at Jiu Jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to the newest episode 365 of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show. What's beautiful about that is, unless of course it's a leap year, you could listen to an I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show episode every single day of the year now. It's exciting, we're to the year mark of a podcast, right? So today, and after 365 episodes, hey, we might have just found something that people actually like. And a lot of people loved the tier list that we did last week. And so we were deciding, well, when should we do another tier list? What should we do it on? And like, you know what? Let's just try to put together one that's really, really great for people. Let's put all of our effort into it this week and see if we can do it even bigger and better than we did the last time. And so instead of doing a guard tier list like we did last week, which people really are enjoying right now, that is currently on pace to be our most viewed and listened to episode ever. And we're just a few days in having just released it. But that kind of shows me that people enjoy that thought of like, well, if I'm going to put time and effort into something, wouldn't it be nice to know? Wouldn't it be nice to not have to turn over every stone to find out that it was a low tier position to dedicate all my time to? And I think that's why people really were attracted to the guard tier list. And I also think doing 28 different guards, there were a few different ones that I think people could argue that I missed, but still very few. Doing 28 different guards really gives you the full spectrum to be able to say, this is what I should dedicate my time to. And I really try to explain my personal bias in the tier list because every tier list will have that. But today, I decided to bite off more than I could chew and do 66 different submissions. And we are going to do a 7-tier list, just like we did last week. The worst rank, of course, being F, and then you can go all the way up to A, and then S, and then the double S tier. And the double S tier is kind of the gold standard, and this just means that it meets our criteria perfectly. And so our criteria is as follows. The 4 things, and this is in order of importance too. The 4 things that I looked at when building this tier list that may end up changing as you and I discuss it today. But the first thing that I looked at was application at the highest level. If this is only a move that works on blue belts, it is going to take a horrible hit in our personal tier list, in the tier list that I'm doing. The second thing is risk versus reward, and I'll explain that in depth in a second. The third thing is versatility, okay? Can this be used in all kinds of different situations? Can this be used in all kinds of different positions? How versatile is this? And then availability. How often does this actually come up in live rounds, okay? Or is this just something that is just when you get this perfect picture, is this a submission that can work? Okay, so just to go through again, the criteria is application at the highest level. At whatever we're talking about, whether gi, no gi, MMA, self-defense, can this be applied at a very high level in the at the highest speed that you could be going? The second thing is the risk versus reward, and that is both short-term and long-term. Okay, the short-term risk versus reward is, if I miss this move, do I end up in a bad position? Like almost always. Do I miss this move a lot, right? So the risk versus reward, obviously the reward is I get a submission, or I could even hit a cool submission, right? One that makes my heart warm, which is part of jiu-jitsu, is part of the art, of course. But the long-term risk versus reward is there are some positions, there are some submissions that are hard on your own body. And when you think about it, like there are certain calf slicers that you will put your knee in compromising positions. And if you do that for a long enough time, a lot of times you end up paying a really bad long-term price. And so if your goal is not longevity in training, if you don't care, if you're just like, hey, I'm here for a short time, but I'm here for a good time, then your tier list will look totally different than mine. Keep in mind, though, for me, I've done jiu-jitsu for about 18 years now, and that means, one, that I've attempted all these submissions, hit all of these submissions in live training. But almost all. There will be a couple exceptions that I'll tell you guys about. But two, it also is this thing where I love training jiu-jitsu. Training jiu-jitsu is still so fun to me 18 years later, even though it's the thing I do on the podcast, all I talk about, it's what I do. I'm a coach. I have 3 gyms. I am all in on jiu-jitsu. I've been a competitor for the same amount of time that I've been training. And with all that, it just shows that no matter how much you're like, no, I just want to win big stuff right now. Like, I care about that so much less than I did when I was young. And I still just get to enjoy the community aspect, the fun aspect of training jiu-jitsu. And so that is why my tier list looks at the long-term risk versus reward of trying to master that submission and build a whole game around that submission. Then versatility is, can this be used in gi, no gi, self-defense, or MMA? Something that was harsh last week was there's a few gi-only positions that were pretty much double S tier, right? And I did not put them in that. I just kept them in the S tier because they had no versatility, because of the gi, they could only be used in the gi, right? And this wasn't a rule set thing. There's going to be similar things that pop up versatility-wise that maybe like it is illegal to do in the gi, but still, I don't think that should be a tax to its versatility. It's still incredibly effective, even if you're not legally allowed to do it in the gi, so it won't be the same tax. I think that there will be some no-gi only submissions that still hit that double S tier today. And then of course, the availability. Is this something that actually comes up in training? Is this something that is just so niche that you can only hit it on people of a certain size, or you can only hit it on with the exact timing when you get like the right 3 or 4 scenarios to happen in a row? And so that's what we're going to look at too. And so without further ado, we are going to start. And besides the first couple, this list is totally random. And the only reason I chose these first few to start with is just so we could be on the same page of how this criteria is going to work. So we could look at some higher and lower tier positions that we could probably agree on, maybe disagree on. And that is the most beautiful thing about this, is I spent my whole week arguing in the comments of last week's video. And so, if you disagree with me, I would be happy to chat with you about it. If you disagree with me on too many things, you got to make your own tier video, and then I'll attack you on it. Without further ado, let's start with the American submission, the Americana. And this we're saying from side control from mount in the standard Americana positions, okay? And this, I think some people would consider this maybe a B tier move. This is something maybe we see hit less at the highest levels, you could argue. But for me, this is why I wanted to start with this, is because there's personal bias. I hit this at black belt a few different times over the last few years, in the open class with heavier guys, in the gi and no gi. I've hit it and at adult and at Master 1. And so getting that mixture of I've been able to make sure it's effective. But my reasoning behind having it high enough as an A, I agree that you could argue that it shouldn't be an A, that it should be in the B category. But here's why I put Americana at A, is because of the risk versus reward. There is no long-term risk to mastering Americanas. You will learn to master the position of side control and mount, which is so much more important than what submission you're hitting once you're there, right? Once you're making people ineffective and you're making them tired. And then you can hit cool submissions, or you can hit super simple submissions like the Americana. The other thing is the short-term risk versus reward. A lot of the time, people's defense of an Americana sets you up, even though it's generally people can eat it, they can have some good flexibility, they can then start to turn their body and use their free hand to protect. But that opens you up to all kinds of other even higher tier submissions. And so that is why I put the Americana as this kind of like linchpin when you get to some of these attack positions, right? And you can probably put the straight arm lock and the Kimura in a very similar category there, or even better than the Americana. Maybe they're more effective. But still, it's because of that risk to reward. And that's where we put Americana to start. And then I thought it would be important to show, well, what's the top? What is the most important? What's an SS tier position? And this is when I was saying this is effective in a fight. This is effective in MMA. This is super effective in no-gi when it's legal. And I have competed in rule sets in the gi where this has been legal. And so I know that's absolutely crazy, but the inside heel hook. And the inside heel hook, if you've ever been inside heel hooked by someone good at it and someone with really good entries, a lot of times if they can catch you with the first entry early in a round, they're probably going to heel hook you over and over and over again. And so that to me puts inside heel hook where it should be, in that double S category. And so I thought, again, this is why I wanted to start with these couple, is just so we can all agree on, like, these are what the categories should be. And now I threw one in that really shouldn't even be here, but just so we can understand what the F rank, what the F tier is we have the Americana again, but this time from closed guard on top. If you're going for Americanas from closed guard on top, the risk versus reward totally changes. Its level of effectiveness totally changes. You're probably going to get your back taken, and most likely you're not going to submit anybody with it. And so anyone with any skill at all. And so that is going to be our first inductee into the F tier. And now we're going to look at the loop choke. We're cruising right along, guys. We're probably gonna, holy smokes, we're only 4 in, like 13 minutes in. This episode's gonna be 3 hours. Loop chokes. There are different styles of them, different types of them, obviously gi only, but man, they can be effective because of how versatile they are. They set you up for so many other submissions, and you can hit them in bad positions. Shout out to my buddy Nick Curran, who went on Fight to Win last week and hit a loop choke, spoiler, hit a loop choke finish. Went out to just show how good he was. He like pulled mount immediately to show his skill off. Bridge and rolled out, and then somehow ended up like passed, but had a loop choke. And the best part is, like, on the video, the commentator is like, yeah, this is no big deal. All he's going to have to do is push that hand off of his head and he'll get out of this. And then the guy tapped. I'm like, come on, commentator, get it together. And that's the beauty of the loop choke, is it can be effective from so many different positions. And that, for me, puts loop choke as our second inductee into an A tier move. Little problem with loop chokes for a lot of people is if they can't get their opponent's head position right, which is hard to get at first, you hurt your own shoulders doing loop chokes, and then you go, man, I can't do loop chokes because of my shoulders. So I don't know, maybe you switch to guillotines. Let's look at our next one. So here was another one that I separated by position, okay? We could have just said triangle chokes, but here's the thing, is the different angles of the triangle, the different positions you can be on the triangle really determine how effective it is and how consistent it is. And I mean, it's pretty much always pretty effective, but there is still going to be some difference in effectiveness. And so now we're going to look at the rear triangle, okay? The only real negative, in my opinion, that you could make the claim on the rear triangles. Obviously, the choke is harder to finish. There's no doubt. It is harder to catch that same angle and finish the choke. But it leads you to a really cool, like, you could go for like the Suloev stretch, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We'll rank in a little bit. We used to see, they call that the Suloev stretch. We used to call the triangle Suloev stretch. And then the triangle, we used to call the triangle Suloev stretch the Weenie Hut Jr. And like from SpongeBob. And then when you keep that knee bar leg and then you turn it into a toe hold also, we called that the Super Weenie Hut Jr. And so, yeah, that's what the Suloev stretch should be called. No offense to Suloev or whoever invented that. But anyway, we're not even talking about you right now. Quit entering our mind. So the rear triangle, we're going to put up to, drumroll please, S tier. We're going S tier, our first inductee into the S tier. If you start to master the arm lock off of it, but you also understand where the position typically comes from, it typically comes from you getting an arm trapped on your opponent when you're on their back already. And sometimes you could end up hitting them from falling off their back, to some extent going for a Kimura. There are other entries, but it is just, once you get there, you get so much control of the person, and there's a lot of good offense that you can do from there. And so that is why we're going to keep it in the S tier. So now we're going to look, number 6, we're going to look at the banana split. Banana split's pretty good, okay? I'm not going to say that if you were there, it doesn't destroy people's lives and it's not the most embarrassing thing to get caught in. But I will say this, a lot of people can be flexible enough to eat that position. It's hard to get into that position. It's just, I'm sure there are people that master it, but I just don't think that it's super valuable to go over the top. And I understand there's good offense you can go for if you miss it. One time when I was a brown belt, it was my first brown belt tournament ever. In my division was the current adult brown belt at my weight class world champion, and then the current at my weight class Master 1 world champion. Okay, they drew each other first round of the tournament, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to get to see the difference of the two. The adult world champion was Hinato Canuto, okay? And so this is him at brown belt. This is right before he gets his black belt. And once he got his black belt, he was dominant immediately. He beat Gary Tonin like that first year. He was unbelievably good immediately. I got to experience it first. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what happened in the match before when he fights Master 1 world champion. He goes out, and I'm like, man, I wonder if this is going to be close. Guy pulls guard on Hinato. Hinato goes for a back take. Guy looks like he's defending it, and then he gets tapped with a banana split. And I was like, holy smokes. I hope I lose my first round so I don't have to fight that guy. And then I won. And then we won't talk about what happened, but I didn't get freaking banana splitted. You know, it's a C-tier move, dude. He was doing it to embarrass the guy. So that's what we got to look at. That's what we got to realize with ye old banana split. So we're dropping it in the C-tier. Now let's look at one. This is going to offend some people. Okay, this is going to make some people mad for sure. And I can see your argument, but the Darce choke, I'm going to not put in the double S tier. I think a lot of no-gi guys, and you can even in the gi hit Darce chokes. A lot of people will think, no, a Darce choke should be double S. I'm going single S. I think you could make the argument of even A. I love Darces. I use them on occasion. They're very hard to learn to defend, and that's, I think, a big part of their effectiveness too. They're very translatable to guys who wrestled. You know, you can teach them that on pretty much day one. So there's a lot of good things behind the Darce. My only hang up in it is there's an arm length to body size ratio that is just even harder to deal with than a triangle, right? Like there are guys that avoid triangles because they're like, oh, my legs are too short. Those guys are definitely having to avoid the Darce, right? And so, and I just would argue the bigger your opponent, you know, the harder it is to finish. And that is why when the conditions are right, it's overpowered though. There's no doubt about that. It is just an absolutely overpowered move. And that's why we're going S tier with the old Darce. And now, man, personal bias, I would have this as an S tier move because I do hit it quite a bit. And it's just because I go for North-South Kimura a lot. But the head scissors, pretty much the only place I've ever really seen it from is like when you're going for a Kimura and you fall off the person. But this thing happens when the person bridges to come up on top of you and you have your Kimura grip and you straighten your arms like you're trying to push them away, is their chin opens up for a second. And a lot of times your leg is already laying on their chest and it can just slide right up under their neck. And I would argue with this, I do hit quite a bit of head scissors. When I say quite a bit, it's just like it's guys that I'm actually struggling to finish are the ones I tend to hit with the head scissors because I couldn't get the North-South Kimura. I couldn't get them with anything from side control or mount. And so I'm having to go one step past North-South Kimura and, risk something else, risk going for an armbar, whatever. And it's this catch. But even though I have a personal bias, as much as I like it, it's like, is it really a whole lot better than a banana split? So I'm going to put it down here. I'm going C tier right now for the head scissors, even though it's awesome and it does, just like the banana split, it's embarrassing. But we really didn't put in any of our criteria, we didn't talk about like Instagram views, right? And so that's why if that was part of the criteria, these would get you way more views and we could push them up. But we're just talking about effectiveness at the highest level. Yo, so I got a new gi. It's really, really sick. Datsusara just sent me their fun gi number 2 and has a color stitching that I've never really seen before. It just, the gi looks really cool. The obviously whatever artist they had design it took special care on this, and it's just such a unique design. I have worn it twice now, and I have probably gotten 20 different comments on the gi. Everybody's like, hey, why is this shiny? Can I touch this? Can I put on your gi top? Can I choke you with this a little bit? And so it's definitely been the talk of the town. Only problem I had is I trained in it the other day, jump in the car. It's like one of the last nice days of the year out. And so I got the windows down, jump in the car, still gi on, still sweaty. I got leather seats, no big deal. And I'm going to drive home. And on my way home, I end up having to roll up the windows because women were literally just trying to jump in to the car because they were so impressed by this Datsusara gi. And so if that interests you, if being, the coolest looking person on the mat interests you, being in one of the most comfortable gis that there is interests you, be sure to check out Datsusara. Be sure to check out dsgear.com and use promo code I suck at checkout, and you'll get 10% off of your gi, your backpack, whatever you want from them. But be sure to check them out. Level. Now we're going to go knee bar. What do you mean I can't knee bar? I drove all the way here from New Jersey. Knee bar, I put in the A tier. I could argue that some people definitely have it in the S or even the double S tier for their own game. But I think that the angle, the positioning tends to be harder for people to understand than some of the other leg locks. I think other leg locks can be put into your game more effectively and caught more consistently. Now, I think that a lot of people, if the meta went back to knee bar as like, hey, let's just get really good at knee bars, I think that it could be brought up. But right now, consider it an A tier position. It's just a little hard to catch your angle to keep guys from spinning and to learn how to do that consistently. Still important to put into your game as you start to learn leg locks and just have an understanding of, know how to defend too. Sometimes, man, I almost got Josh Severett, friend of the show, almost snapped my leg off on Sunday with the knee bar. It was so fast too. I kind of thought he was going to go toe hold, but he just didn't even have that intention. He started to hip in, and honestly, I even told him after, I think he thought he didn't have it because it was a little low, but it was so dead on. I think if he would have just hipped in and stayed on top, he would have finished. But he's like, oh, I got to adjust. And then when he went to adjust, it gave me that inch to get out. But, man, that was tight. We're going to call it A tier. We're calling the knee bar A tier. Now we're grabbing our bow and arrow choke. Really, it's a gi-only move. If this is a gi-only list, it's double S tier. It's not even close. Bow and arrow choke, one of the most important things to put into your game if you do gi, because it allows you to suck it controlling from the back and just still have a crazy high submission rate. There is a little risk of position. You can lose it, but to me, the bow and arrow, we got to throw into the S tier. I just don't even see how we can make that argument against it. Where are we at now? We're at the straight arm lock. We also are tying this in with shoulder crunch, okay? So we have like you might call it the arm wrench, that from your guard or from a triangle choke even, where you pin the wrist between your ear and shoulder. There should be visual cues on the video if you're not seeing this. If you're listening to this, obviously it's a podcast. We're audio first, but I highly recommend this video on video because the tier list itself, getting to see it and actually see, Brian Allen and Bryce Allen sacrificed their bodies so we could get actual pictures of all of these things. And so they're at least a little bit better visual cue, hopefully, for you. But we're saying straight arm lock, and that also could be from top side control. When people defend an Americana or Kimura, you hit that same straight arm lock. And to me, I think that I'm putting this in the A tier, but I think you could easily argue it's S tier. The straight arm lock is such an effective attack. You know what? I'm doing it. I know I had told myself, I've went through all these obviously already, but my original thought was putting that in the A tier. But when I think about it from top side control and what's the risk of going for it? Even when the guy straightens his arm and you're going for an Americana from mount, what's the risk in going for it, right? A lot of times it leads to good stuff. It leads to other attacks. And is people get tired. I finish with the Kimura setup grip, I finish straight arm locks from top half guard all the time. I don't go for them as much anymore. I just try to pass anymore, but I used to do it all the time. And so I think that straight arm lock we will put up into the S tier. Now, here's a niche one. This one's fun. When we had the list together, Bryce didn't know about this. Was like, neither of the Allen brothers. They were like, hey, is this right? Is this right on the list? What's this? The Diesel Squeezel. I don't know if you guys know of the Diesel Squeezel. Shout out Jim Kelly. They are in Iowa. They are a TAC team affiliate. Jim Kelly. There's I think Keenan has a video teaching the Diesel Squeezel, but it's basically it's solving the problem of being able to cut off the blood flow with a front headlock guillotine without having to change position, right? So I'll get way too detailed. If you go for any choke that is a blood choke, as simple as this sounds, we don't think of it this way, you've got to touch both carotid arteries. That is incredibly essential. That is the only part that actually matters. And you have to close them off. That is how you put people to sleep. Okay. And so a lot of times what happens is we do these guillotines that require so much angle and pressure to close the other carotid artery off. Okay. Because what happens is we dig our arm in and our bicep is closing off one side. Okay. And then it's so hard for us to get our arm around and get our forearm to close off the other side. So we do things like grab the chin and try to use our fingers, all kinds of other things. The Diesel Squeezel was just a move that was used with a certain grip where you can use your fist from the other hand. So it's basically a punch choke on your free hand. If you were doing an arm in guillotine, the one that would be over the body, or over the arm, the one that would be, kind of overhooking the arm to be arm in, that's instead going to be in front of the arm, and you are going to go fist choke with that hand. And that is a very, very, very tight choke. And the thing, again, just because we're going to describe a million chokes, and they're going to be spread throughout, while I'm on this podium or whatever, this high horse, with a choke, with blocking a carotid artery, it doesn't actually take a whole lot of pressure. And so the amount of pressure that I've heard used as an analogy, and ChatGPT says that this is true, is that if you were to grab an avocado and you were going to test to see if it's ripe, it takes the amount of pressure with your hand to squeeze and decide if it's ripe or not. More than that is more pressure than you need to cut off a carotid artery, okay? So you have to understand this. Choking somebody has way more to do with contact with that carotid artery than how hard you're squeezing and what grip you have and all this. And so to tighten up any choke that you're trying to do that's supposed to put people to sleep, make sure you kind of just follow along where are his carotid arteries or her. Everyone goes to sleep. And how can I block them using this choke? What angle makes sense? And we'll get way deeper into that, but let's just move on, and we'll take, I don't even know if I said this. I've got some bias. I want to even put it up higher, but we'll take it. We'll put the diesel Squeezel as an A tier position. And I would say probably one of the most underrated moves that we're going to talk about today, because so few people know about this, but man, there is, it can be effective. It can make people make really bad decisions. It can be and it's so low risk, right? You're still not losing the front headlock. And so big fan of it. Now let's look. Another front headlock position is we're going Anaconda choke. And I did put this just one tier below our... Wait, have I done that one yet, or am I lying to you? Oh, never mind. I almost just revealed something to you guys that I hadn't said yet. But we're going to grab our Anaconda choke, and we are going to put this in the A tier. And the Anaconda, I don't know. I think I just put it a little lower than darts. That's kind of where I have it at. It controls the person. It can be really effective. It can gas your arms out if you don't do it right. It can be hard to get the right angle, though. But it can be versatile in any situation, right? In a fight, in gi and no gi, you can use it. And so that's what keeps it up in the A tier. As a guy with arms that aren't crazy long, just normal size arms, not my favorite. Doesn't hit for me, not something I really would rather master. I would, again, rather go with something that just attacks the neck. So here is our next one. And this one is hard for me because I love it so much. I really do. This is one of my favorite positions. But again, I'm trying to not be biased on this. I want to put this A tier, S tier, double S tier. People should just be mastering it more. And I agree that people should just learn how to play this position more. But tapping people with Kesa Gatame pressure. If we were doing a tier list of how it feels in your soul, it's a triple S tier. It's the best feeling. It's the best feeling that you could have. It's like if you are going with somebody, you're inside control, they're getting tired, and you're beating them from everywhere, but you can't submit them. And then they win the far side underhook, and they're like, haha, I've done it, but they're getting tired. And you fight the far side underhook. You just don't let them come up on their side. And you just keep them flat. And then at one point you hook behind their head, and then you set up your Kesa Gatame. And then you put the pressure. You can just ruin people's lives with that, bro. And they get this choice. And I've been tapped with it. You get a choice. I've gotten the choice of like, I suppose I could die here. And that's why I love it. Here's the problem with it. If you miss it, man, if your timing's off, the risk is your back gets taken or you end up on bottom. And so I'm going to have to drop it into the B tier. I'm sorry. I don't know what else you want me to tell you. I just have to. I have to do it. And I apologize to friend of the show, Jeremy Brick. I know you're just furious. You're literally you to set Head Nod HQ in Granite City on your GPS. You're driving to my gym right now to start Kesa Gatame pressure tapping people. I'm not saying it's ineffective. I'm just saying the risk to reward. That's all I'm saying. Now let's look somewhere else. I'll pair it. I think we're going all B tier. Okay, B. I won't even get into it. Let me just put it out there. Armbar from bottom. An essential move, we all agree, right? You can't do jiu-jitsu without knowing the armbar from bottom. But I would argue very few people are actually good at armbars from bottom. Very, very few people. Like once you get to purple belt, people stop really hitting many, unless they're like defensive, unless they're from guard retention. But still, it's like most things, you're seeing a lot more triangles as finishes off the back there, or leg locks, right? But arm bars from bottom tend to be harder to set up. Now, I think it's informational. I have an armbar masterclass free on the YouTube. I'll make sure we link it in the description. But I think that if you understand how to control the shoulder, you can hit arm bars from anywhere. It doesn't really matter. And so, that being said, most of these positions, you could argue that somebody has brought it to a very high level, and you can use it at a very high level. It's just, we got to bash some positions, right? And I would say, in general, most people lose position more than they hit the submission going for an armbar from their back. And I agree that it is partially just because they don't understand it, but I still think that puts us in the B tier. And I'm sorry to you guys who've drilled tens of thousands of arm bars, deadpan with no resistance. I apologize. I'm sorry that I offended you. Here's the thing. I know you're not going to armbar me for it. I know you didn't, gain the skill from those 10,000 reps of no resistance and no timing. So I'm not too worried about it. But if you watch the armbar masterclass, you would get the information to armbar me and you could get your payback. So I don't know. Do that. Let's insult somebody else. Ninja choke. Stupid. D. Do I need to say more? Stupid. It's stupid. Why are we going for these? You see them like, we see them in MMA. Yeah, that's because guys suck. That's because guys don't know how to just like shrug their shoulders. Like, what are we doing, dude? Why are you letting people do ninja chokes to you, dude? Ninja choke is like if you took a guillotine and a darce, you combined them together, and then you got rid of all of the control, and that's what the position is. And so, yeah, ninja choke D. There's no more to say about it. Cross collar choke. Again, essential jiu-jitsu position. I love the cross collar choke. Super hard to master. I felt maybe two guys and got in a row with like two guys that I feel like actually had a mastery of the cross collar choke. Just so hard to get good at. And so, not that it's not an effective move, and not that I don't love it, not that I don't think it's cool, but we still got to put it. We got to put it in the B tier. I'm so sorry, my friend. I am so sorry, old friend. Now we're going to look at, and people were saying I was hating on 10th Planet last week, but I feel like giving Rubber Guard an A tier position last week was not hating at all. I was just being honest about lockdown, but whatever. So this week, now let's look at Gogoplata. This will probably surprise people. People will probably like, Josh is going to think this is the stupidest position in the world. And yes, there is long-term injury risk to this, but there are omoplata entries from top, or Gogoplata entries from top that, like from Monoplata setups and stuff that are way more effective. And I would argue you don't have the person's pressure on your body. And so much safer for your knee. And so for the Gogo, I'm putting it in the B tier. Like I said, could be a little biased. I just think it's a cool submission. I could have dropped it. People would have been excited if I dropped it in the F tier. If I wanted comments, I would have said it's an F tier move. But I feel like B tier is fair. I feel like it's like that's this tier list. This my goal is like, hey, this was just, but it was fair. Now let's look at, oh gosh, why did I put these two together? So we got 10th Planet. Now we got the electric chair. The setup to it is hard because it risks being in smash half, and that is, or in bottom side control. And that's why all you 10th Planet guys want to try to master the buggy choke, is because you play too much lockdown and you get passed. Like, not getting past keeps you from having to use the buggy choke, right? And so with the electric chair, it's like, if you use it wisely, if you use it as part of your guard retention, meaning like you have me in dangerous threats while I'm trying, even with your rubber guard, you're threatening me with your rubber guard. And then I start to get inside and I start to put you into a half guard. And then all of a sudden you're threatening me with your electric chair. I had to fight to get to the position where you go to your electric chair. Then electric chair is effective. And here is the thing about electric chair. It hurts like the dickens. I have a student, won't shout him out, tore his ACL in an electric chair. Obviously getting it done to him, not doing it. But rough position. Not a fan of being put there. But I'll also say this. With the Island Bros, who were the guys we were, taking these pictures with, they had me, they were pretty much resisting certain things at full strength because they're crazy. And the electric chair was one of those things. And so, and it was pretty easy with just even the slight resistance to keep me from being able to destroy Brian's leg like I wanted. So it's just like the setup is so hard. That being said, keeping it out of the C tier is just how OP it is once you get there, dude. Your life's ruined once the guy gets there. And so, and I know it was the vaporizer, but listen, let's not split hairs. When Eddie Bravo did that to Hoyler the second time they competed, like when they were old, the Metamoris time, that was sick, dude. But we're dropping electric chair in the B tier. Yeah, how Hoyler just ate it was pretty wild too. But it's just, that was a crazy match. Anyway, now we're back. Rear naked choke. Rear naked choke. Step it up now. Walk the tightrope, rope. Do the moonwalk. Rear naked choke. Name that in the comments. Don't Google it. Come on. Be cool. Give me the comment. What song is that? Literally, for the longest time, that was the greatest rap song in jiu-jitsu history, right? Jiu-jitsu rap, no doubt. I don't think it is anymore. Lyrical jiu-jitsu rapper. The Gift Rap Volume 1 and Volume 2. I think that's the albums on Spotify. Available on Spotify, available on probably YouTube. I don't know. There's one that's really good. He has one song. It's a banger. He's a Midwest guy. I think Michigan is Midwest. I don't know. But Lear is his name. I've coached against him at jiu-jitsu tournaments before. But while I was coaching against him, I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's raps. This dude's beats are sick. Anyway, I'm off topic. What am I even supposed to be talking about right now? Oh, yeah, rear naked choke, double S tier. Master it. Most people don't, and it ruins their life, but master it, dude. It is so effective. Master it. What are you doing? Get it together. Why are we even having this conversation right now? Master it. You should be good at the rear naked choke, and most people suck at it. Most people are absolutely terrible at the rear naked choke, and it's not because it doesn't work. It's just because you don't understand how to hand fight. You don't understand your hand positioning where you should be. You don't understand your head positioning in the back. It's because people don't understand the back. But when it comes to a fight, when it comes to a jiu-jitsu match, the rear naked choke is effective in every submission or every situation at the highest level. You can't be tough to it. It even works over people's chin if you want to be mean. Just totally overpowered. For the Art. For the Art is the song. That's the lyric, Learycal, For the Art. On Spotify. I should have just linked it. I wouldn't have had to remember that, but maybe I'll remember to link it. Rear naked choke, yeah. Also, give me that quote. Give me the quote, guys. If you know what I quoted to get on that crazy tangent, the walk a tightrope thing, let me know. I want to hear about it. I just want to talk to somebody about that experienced that with me. Back when it was cool. Now let's look at Peruvian necktie. Cool move. Useless. We'll throw it in the sea. Useless. Right? Aoki lock. Hard to not put this in the double S for me. I think you could argue it. I think we could all argue it. Obviously illegal in the gi, but there was this golden time that you guys may have not even heard about. It's probably like 6 years ago now, where pretty much one, maybe two competitors were illegally doing an Aoki lock in the gi with the lapel. You would grab your own lapel and you would shelf their heel on your ribs, and then while guys were still on top, you would just twist your body and hit them with the most vicious inside heel hook pressure for no freaking reason. Just destroy people's legs, and you would pretend it's a straight ankle lock. And because people didn't understand the position. And it was a golden time to have that information. And I would argue I was probably one dude that had that information at the time, and I stole it from a competitor that will just let his legacy remain untarnished. But if you look back, he was definitely doing it. I definitely stole it from one specific person, and it was super, super illegal. And now it is illegal. But the Aoki lock, it's so hard to not put this in the double S for me. It's just so overpowered when you use it. And technically, you still can use it in the gi. If I'm going for a straight ankle lock and you are actively pulling your own heel out like you're trying to get away, and then that's why I start the attack, and I'm continuing my first attack, that I believe, don't quote me on that, don't get DQ'd on my account, but I'm pretty sure in the gi and the IBJJF that is legal still. You know what? Screw it. I talked myself into it. We're going double S for the Aoki lock. Are we going double S? That's too much. It's too much. Is it I'm going S. I'm back down to S. We're going S for the Aoki lock. We're putting it with the darce, the rear triangle, bow and arrow choke, straight arm lock. I think those are fair. Straight arm lock could be dropped. But straight arm lock, if the shoulder crunch is included with the overpower sweep on the shoulder crunch, I think that pushes it up to S tier. If we're looking at these as all the same thing, which they aren't. We're dropping it. You're right. Okay, so that was the problem. So Aoki stays at S tier. Straight arm lock goes down to A tier. I'm not going to switch any more of these during this. We'll just switch them as we get through, because this is going to be, like I said, it's going to be a 3-hour episode. I can't believe we're doing this. This is brutal. Please listen to this. Please listen to it and engage and be happy and laugh and be like, oh man, Josh, you're so funny. I'm so glad that you've done 365 episodes of this with nobody listening. And finally, because of tier lists, people are listening when they should be listening to hot takes. Some people listen to hot takes. We won't get into that. Let's look at the bicep slicer. I've finished a good amount of matches with bicep slicers, but all at purple belt when it was when it would be allowed at a tournament and no other purple belts knew how to defend it, and I would set up arm bars and then turn them into bicep slicers. But then there came this point where people started just freaking eating them, and people will do that to the bicep slicer. And so we are going to put the bicep slicer as a C tier move. No doubt about it. Get that out of here. I think it can complement an armbar really well if it's legal. But it's just, like I said, some people eat it. It's just not, to me, it ain't it. It doesn't hit the criteria. Don't worry too much about it. Know what it is so you're not getting caught in them. Understand how to defend them. But I wouldn't put a lot into it. So again, we have a gi only position. Should be double S tier, but it's just gonna be a standard. We're just gonna put it in the S tier because it's gi only, and that is the clock choke. If you don't know the clock choke, there are a few. It's interesting when I go teach in the gi now. People are so obsessed with learning the guards that they have less of an understanding of the dominant positions than I feel like they used to. And I also feel like people don't understand the creative submissions with the gi that we used to really, like, everybody did. Those were the meta 10, 12 years ago. And one of these is, probably even, honestly, clock choke is what we're going to look at now. Clock choke was even kind of before my time. It started to be phased out when I was starting jiu-jitsu. I would say less and less people were hip to the clock choke. My reasoning behind this, I specifically remember we were at a tournament and I was a blue belt and somebody got hit with a clock choke and got put to sleep. And Kyle turned around and he goes, "Hey, have I ever taught you guys that?" And we're like, "Bruh, dude, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it, Kyle." And so, I just remember that not being common then. But then when I started to learn it, I'm like, man, when guys belly down in the gi, you should just clock choke them. And so that puts me clock choke at, I put it at an S tier. It should be a double S, of course, I think, but can't be. Just can't. We can't do it. So now we'll look at the Tarikoplata. Now, this is an A-tier move, I think. I think it's an A-tier move. Super, super powerful, shocking. You can hit it from all kinds of different places. Effective at the highest levels. Beautiful jiu-jitsu move. A-tier move. But when I was a younger man, I think it was like 2022, Tariq snapped my foot off with a straight ankle lock in competition. Rightfully so. He was morally sound. I would have done the same thing to him if I had the opportunity. But I didn't have the opportunity. And it makes it hard for me to not push your old move down to the B tier, old pal. But you know what? I'm going to keep it A tier. I think it's an A tier move. Versatile everywhere. Man, is it a beautiful move. It's just a shocking, and it is I think it's a really valuable contribution, no matter how much my ankle hurts every morning when I wake up. I think it's a valuable contribution to jiu-jitsu. Now let's look at the twister. We'll drop it where all of the other 10th planet things seem to be going, and we will put it in the C tier. Make some more people angry. The twister, all it is, it's an availability thing. It's so hard to catch the hips and the leg and the head and the arm all in line at the right spot and get the control. And it's just, that's the thing about a twister. Super cool looking. The twister hook, huge, right? Like learning to use your leg as the twister hook, like kind of that next progression from when you are have a truck and you're chasing the guy's back. But yeah, the C tier, bro. I think that's cool. I think we keep that there. Here's one that I've been wrestling with. Another essential position. Totally love it. But I don't know. I almost feel like S tier for an armbar from top feels like it's overrated. I almost think when you look at, okay, so rear triangle, Darce, bow and arrow, Aoki lock, clock choke. Is armbar from top as, does it hit the criteria? Is it obviously application at the highest level? Short-term risk is you lose the position. That's my biggest knock, right? Versatility, it's there. Availability, it's there. You look at it, you throw it in, is like sometimes you're going for the armbar from top while you're trying to pass too, right? So it's a little less risk, but you get scored on in competition. It's that short-term risk versus reward. And I don't think that there's a physical, I don't think you're going to hurt yourself going for armbars from top. It's just hard to, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to go for Grandmaster Elio. I'm going S tier. That's what we're doing. Like, oh, Josh, but you're the AJJ guy. I'm like, you know what? I still have respect. And now we're guillotine. And other people will disagree because, again, these are moves that, these are essential moves that people don't bother mastering anymore because they're not cool to master. They're not these cool niche moves, but they stand the test of time. And that is the guillotine choke. The guillotine choke is the most natural thing that happens in a fight. If you watch two buddies fight who have no idea how to fight, and I've gaslit thousands of people into getting in fights with each other. And something that happens is head height drops and guillotines happen. And just learning how to finish a guillotine consistently. And that same idea of how do you block off both carotid arteries? One, if you just think of a guillotine with the same depth you think of a rear naked choke, right? To do a rear naked choke, you want your elbow with their chin. You want your shoulder between their ear and shoulder. Same with the guillotine. I want my shoulder deep between their ear and shoulder. I want to be able to choke them with just one arm, right? Just like I could with a rear naked choke. And so understanding that, and then you have a free hand to control, you have a free hand to switch to so many other attacks, so many setups for Darces, so many setups for Anacondas, so many setups for passes, for getting to climbing on mount for people and finishing the guillotine from mount. I just think when it comes to versatility, so many people would change their game so much if they just focused on guillotines for a while. And you look even in the gi, Josh Hinger used them effectively for years and years and years, and so did Marcelo. And so, I think that understanding how to dig a real guillotine and how to squeeze it, I think that if you're just looking at hey, what things should I master? I think that's it's so available. It's so versatile. Do guillotines, my friend. Do the old guillotine. Now let's look at the Monoplata. Maybe people don't know this one as well. A little bit niche. I really just put it right below the armbar from top. I don't think that not that there's no difference. There is definitely a difference, but I put it below that just because the armbar from top is just a little easier to come by. The Monoplata tends to happen when you get a certain response from the bottom guy, they start to hug your hip. And so Monoplata is still very effective, but still drops a level. And you still do have the short-term risk of you lose position. Like I said, though, it sets up some cool guillotines. What do we got next? Now we got outside heel hook. And I could see you can easily make the argument that if inside heel hook is double S, then outside heel hook should be double S. But I'm not in on it, man. I'm not in on the argument. I would argue that there is more counter leg lock offense that you can hit from a guy going outside, or just counter offense from a guy going outside. The inside heel hook tends, and sometimes you're doing it from 50-50. It has risk, obviously, too. But you can do it from honey hole, and that protects your legs, and it exposes theirs. And so that is the only reason that I have the outside heel hook a little lower than the double S tier inside heel hook. And so let's continue. Let's look at the hammerlock. Hammerlock maybe more of a self-defense move. There are some versions of it from back chases and stuff. But if I'm being honest, I'm sorry, guys. I would love to do, you could probably, I don't know, I would love to push and be like, the hammerlock's overpowered and people should be doing it. I think there's a reason people don't do it. I think there's a reason it's like pretty much a self-defense catch. And that puts it in the D tier for me. And so, right, yeah, that puts it in the D tier right with ninja chokes. I think that's probably morally sound. Now let's look at, what about the bulldog choke? It's kind of like a ninja choke, but your torso positioning gives you way more control of the person. And honestly, it's a good setup too from how people defend in jiu-jitsu now, where they keep their elbows really tight on all fours. You can hit bulldog chokes. And I know this because I hit bulldog chokes. But again, things that I've really, that I like to do, but I also recognize like, man, just not available very often. If they were, I would be hitting way more bulldog chokes. It's such a cool submission. It's really effective, but it's probably a position that you should focus, like in that all fours position. It probably does you better in the long run to not focus on the bulldog choke and to get better at breaking people down, taking their back, getting them back flat getting them back flat out of turtle, right? And so that puts the bulldog choke for me as a C tier position. And I like both Ben Askren and Robbie Lawler, but it sucks that like the most famous bulldog choke is that one, because obviously Robbie was giving the thumbs up, he wasn't out, and that's like that's sad. But actually for me, first time I ever saw this would have been guy who fought Ben Askren. Weird roundabout way of explaining this, but Dan the Handler Hornbuckle, Midwest legend, MMA legend, and there was a highlight video I watched of jiu-jitsu from 2007 probably, and he hit a few crazy things. One, a guy shot a double leg and he just jumped over the guy completely, like split his legs and jumped over the guy and then turned around and went right back to wrestling. Then the other one was he put a guy away with a bulldog choke, and it was like, I believe, very, very close to the end of the match, and he was even losing, and he put the guy to sleep. And so that was one of the first times I saw it. Definitely effective, but we still, again, I would rather you not risk the position most of the time. It's probably, in the long run, it probably hurts your ability to control and win from turtle on top in a more consistent way. And so that's where we're at with that. Let's go to, so we've got bulldog choke. We're on to our Brabo choke. So many. There are a few gi chokes that we're mentioning. If you're a gi only guy, master these. Your Brabo, your clock, your bow and arrow. These in the gi are double S tier, and it's just no doubt about it, right? Like, I love a cross collar choke. It's cool. It's an original jiu-jitsu move, but it is not as effective for most people to master as the three I just named for you. Those positions are going to come up all the time. Like you hit Brabos from side control on top. You hit them from half guard on top. From knee shield, you can use the grip to help you pass and then hit them when it does. It's just so much good offense from the Brabo choke. And that is, again, that puts it in the S tier. But if it is just gi, then the Brabo is double S tier. I would argue if I was fighting a bum in like cool Midwest weather, I don't mean a bum like a homeless person. Sorry, unhoused person. I don't mean like that. Chill. I mean like a bum, like a guy who can't fight. A can, right? And I say like nice, cool days because he's got a jacket, but it's open, right? Not zipped up. That have like a big, thick zip. It's not winter. He doesn't have his Carhartt, right? I need him something opened. And we got into a tussle for whatever reason. I don't know. Like there was only 3 taco sauces left at Jack in the Box, and I knew that my wife was going to beat me down if I came home without taco sauce. I got her tacos. What's the point, she would say. And so, like, I have to fight this guy for these. And so I hit him with the old, I don't remember what that one's called, but when you do the foot in the hip, guard pull, take the guy overhead, hit him with that. I come up, I drop my hand, pass it to the other side, do the Brabo feed. Obviously, he's going to go to defend and probably trap me into his half guard. But what he doesn't realize is he's actually keeping his hips locked in place by trapping me into half guard. I'll just keep kind of like a knee cut position on top of his, and I can threaten the cross collar Brabo. And when he goes hand fight to the inside, I'll go standard Brabo, put him to sleep. So it is self-defense situation effective. I don't know if that feels like a fight. Probably not a self-defense situation. But, gosh, that was bad. Let's go to toe holds. Toe holds I put in the S tier. Because as you get better at them, one, they can be overpowered when people just don't know how to defend them. They are crazy overpowered. As you get better at them, though, you'll find that a lot of guys can eat them and not tap to them. But it's still, they can lead you to better positions. They can lead you to knee bars. They can set up different knee bars that maybe guys can't eat. And that, to me, puts it up in the S tier of leg locks. I put the toe hold in the same tier as outside heel hook. And so, that's how we're looking at those two. Now we'll look at the old wrist lock. Got to give a shout out to Watson Martial Arts. Went and trained on Thursday, and they have what they call the Devil's Handshake Bell. So if you get wrist locked while you're there, you have to walk over to the bell and ring it and show that you got wrist locked. And so that's one of my favorite things to do when I go train there. If I'm not trying to do the Kesa Gatame pressure, it's trying to put on wrist locks on people, make them do the walk of shame. I will not tell you who I set the wrist lock record on, what jiu-jitsu architect, purple belt from Watson Martial Arts, that I set the record on, because that would be not cool to do on the podcast. But shout out Watson Martial Arts for the wrist lock belt. We're throwing it in the A tier because of how many places you can attack them. And again, some wrist locks, like certain wrist locks when you're going for an armbar, get guys to resist into the armbar and set you up for the armbar. Get guys to break certain grips. And so most of the time they don't risk position like at all. And so that is why we dropped it into the A tier. So now we're going to look at calf slicers. This is something that is incredibly effective. It can be effective at the highest levels. I've been calf slicered before in competition in front of my friends and family, in front of my coach, in front of all kinds of people. It's been horrible. But still, I didn't know how to defend leg locks. I probably could have gotten leg locked in anyway from that, at that time. But they're just risky for your own body. That is my, and when longevity is something I'm preaching to you guys on this, it's impossible for me to put it even in the B tier, because calf slicers, it just seem to be hard on your own knees. There's the one you can do from bottom where you hug the guy's leg and it's not as big of a deal, right, when you use your arms for it. But when you're doing bear traps, when you're doing vaporizers, when you're doing however you're doing it, it's just, to me, I just don't like the risk on the knee. And I don't know. That's all I'm saying, dude. I'm not saying you don't got to get mad about it, okay? That's what I'm telling you, is I don't like the risk on the knee. And that, for me, it puts calf slicers. I'm sorry to the planet, guys. It's just, you guys just risk your bodies for no reason. We're talking about longevity. If we weren't, these things would be higher. If we're, again, cool points, a lot of these are going to be S tier, double S tier. But you guys need to do your own cool points tier list. This is for the homies that listen to the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show whose bodies are destroyed and they're like, hey, I would love to not be more destroyed. This is for who this is. And so that's what I'm telling you. Now let's look at the zipper choke. I'm talking about the one, I think there's a few ways you can describe a zipper choke. I'm talking about the one from close guard. It's cool to do. If you have amazing armbar defense and you just bank on the fact that most people suck at the armbar from close guard, you can probably get away with it most of the time. Still not my favorite. Now to defend a cross collar choke, my friend, pretty great, right? It's pretty nice. It's a nice defense of the cross collar choke, but still, I don't like going for a submission that risks me getting submitted as like part of it, right? And so I try to not go for those. Now, what are we at? Ooh, the triangle choke from guard. Is it higher than the triangle choke from the back? Well, triangle choke from the back, like I said, does not choke people typically. It typically is your arm locks, right? You typically hit a Kimura, you typically hit a straight arm lock. Or you hit the Weenie Hut Jr., Super Weenie Hut Jr. Here's the thing, though. Here you go triangle choke from guard. There is a risk. You could lose position. But its versatility and its effectiveness at the highest levels, to me, it bumps it up into the double S tier. I don't think that there is huge risk. I think that as if you have a knee injury, that's when there's risk of triangles. Like you can't do triangles as much then. But when you don't have a knee injury, I just don't think there's as much risk. I don't think it's as big of a deal. And so I think that the triangle choke from bottom, I think it's going to be our fourth inductee into the double S tier. I almost think, I don't know how many. We only have one more that's going to be in the double S tier. So we only end up with 5 in the double S tier, unless you guys end up talking me into one while we're conversating. Let's go ahead and we'll move to the Suloev stretch. Cool move. For the situation, awesome move. If you don't know, the situation typically happens when I am on your back and you're standing and you kind of go and like plant your hands on the floor or your head on the floor. I don't know what you weirdos do. And your leg is there, so I basically grab a knee bar. And so it's like I'm still on your back, but I'm pulling your heel towards my face, our faces, and your leg is straight. It's terrible. Cool move. Style points there. Again, ruins people's lives. Absolutely the worst thing you can do to another human being is a Suloev stretch. You see people's hamstrings tear. I tore my hamstring like almost a year ago. It was not from a Suloev stretch, actually just from a overtraining situation, I think. But anyway, worst feeling I've ever had. Not pain, but feeling like, it was just horrible to describe how it, I won't describe. And still, it's just too situational. And so that's the knock on it for me. It's not effectiveness. It is situational. It's just like you need that situation to happen. You can do that from the rear triangle, I think, but we're putting it, the Suloev stretch, we're putting it in the B tier. I think that is where it should be. And we just got done with 39. We're going to come back with the Buggy choke. And I'm going to give you guys something that you guys are going to love about the Buggy choke. I'll give you guys a great rating on that we can talk about. But let's go to a quick commercial break. Hey guys, Josh here. I've been getting so much good feedback from the Rob Bernanke Instructional Jiu-Jitsu for Imbeciles that we have been giving away for free. But I have bad news. We're about to switch the free giveaway from our friends at BJ Mental Models. And so if you have not gotten Rob Bernanke's Jiu-Jitsu for Imbeciles, this is a conceptual course on learning jiu-jitsu, and the amount of feedback that people have felt the need to give me. I didn't create this course, but still to tell me how much it has helped them has been so so interesting. I mean, pretty quickly it made me go, oh, this is something that I should start to pay attention to even more than I realized. People love Rob Bernacki's way of explaining jiu-jitsu. And like I said, this is the last time we are running a commercial for this course. And so the next free giveaway is about to change in the coming weeks. But for right now, you can still get your free copy of Jiu-Jitsu for Imbeciles at bjjmentalmodels.com/I-suck. And be sure to check the link in the description and get in on that free course. Let's get back to the episode. And we are back. So next we'll look at what I told you guys. Buggy choke, hot take, absolutely stupid move. If people knew head position on top, no one would be hitting buggy chokes. They would only come from insanely well-crafted defense or just insanely physically gifted people that can twist their body in half. But still, buggy choke, stupid move. Stupid move. Buggy choke D tier. Don't let people play side control. Don't try to master being good at bottom side control submission-wise. The risk to reward does not make sense. I've gone with so many guys that believe themselves to be amazing at bottom side control, and then I just defend on top. And because of the position, because of gravity, they start to get tired, and I don't. The defense is like, that's how you can have the mindset of side control. It's like, I'm just going to stay in side controller mount and make sure that every time he does something, I respond to it correctly. Because if you do that, the bottom guy gets tired. The distance is way off. That is one of the biggest things to understand in jiu-jitsu when you're starting out, is how close you are to a person, how close you are to their limb matters more than anything else. Matters more than the grips you have, okay? And it's like you always like, oh, it's the grip, it's this, it's that. Like, closeness matters more, right? Distance matters more. And so when we're finishing submissions, control matters more, but you get to decide what control you have by the distance and the angles that you're at, okay? So when you're playing buggy choke, you're allowing people to skip so many layers of jiu-jitsu and then trying to master way behind. And it's not consistent. I don't think it's as valuable. I don't think it's a bad move. I don't think you're an evil. Maybe you are an evil person, honestly, if you try to do them. But we've seen them work at the high level. That's the only thing that keeps them out of an F tier, right? We've seen them work, not consistently, not really well, but we have seen them work at a high level. And sometimes you get anybody, no matter how good they are, to overcommit to a position and be at the wrong head position, and that's when you hit your buggy choke. But most of the time, the buggy choke is just coming from guys not being in the right head position. Now, let's go to... Ooh, I should get some disagreement with this one. I'm sure I'll get some disagreement with buggy choke. Let's go to mounted triangle. Triangle from mount. I put this, and this will shock people, I put this in the S tier. I think that, yeah, triangle for mount is an S tier submission. The amount of control you have is insane. A lot of people don't know how to finish it, though. And so they're like, no, that doesn't work. I pull on the head. It doesn't work. It has nothing to do with that. It's your angle. You go for the exact same angle you would go for as if you were doing a triangle off your back, because your legs are in the same position. It's just the torso angle, right? So you can even, and this is how I always teach it, is like if I lock a triangle from mount, I will underhook the leg that I would underhook if I was doing the normal underhook of a triangle, right? Like, you know, you do the move when guys try to slam you from a triangle, but it also helps you pull your angle and finish the triangle. I would underhook that leg and then pull myself that way and squeeze. And you will get way more finishes from that than you would from even the triangles off your back that have good angles, because you get to add your hips into it if you do it right. And so, yeah, that is why I put it in S tier, is because when guys figure out how to finish the mounted triangle, they can set it up from side control. They can set it up from all kinds of different positions. They can switch to it once they off balance you while they're going for a triangle off their back. I think mounted triangle, S tier, so simple to learn the finish. if you just understand it as the same angle as a closed guard or an open guard, any guard triangle, right? It's just you're doing it from top. So now we'll look at where we at. The paper cutter choke. Obviously gi only, but I don't have it as essential as it's effective too, but it's not as essential as a clock choke, bow and arrow, some of those other ones, Brabo that we've talked or is overpowered. It's a great choke, but the paper cutter choke, the setup's a little bit harder. If your game is built for it, it's great. I'm not saying not to work it, but I'm gonna go paper cutter. I think we'll throw paper cutter in the A tier. I think we'll go right. I can't get it. Sorry, the tier list is getting so full that it's starting to change the rules of how it works. So what do we got now? Paper cutter is number 42. Now we're on to mirror lock. I've seen it work. It's better than a buggy choke for sure. It's better than a hammerlock. I think we got to go C tier on the mirror lock. I'm not saying for shizzle, but it feels like it. I don't know. It feels like we have to go C tier. I don't want to go lower than that because you do see it work. Obviously, Frank Mir is who originally did it at the UFC. That's why it's called the mirror lock. And so, but you do still see it. I have a blue belt that hits it. He's a little longer, and so that it sets him up. Guys reach, and so I saw at a Fight to Win years and years ago. Saw John Gutta do it before, and so yeah, very effective. Can be very effective, but it's just one of those things of like it just doesn't come up enough to rate it higher in the tier list. Nothing wrong with learning it, but it is just that's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm going with it. Let's see, what do we have next? We've got the you know what? This is stupid, dude. Japanese necktie. And look, I know people are going to be like, this guy looks like he could be Filipino. He looks like maybe his great-grandma had some strong opinions on the Japanese. Listen, let's not bring that up right now. All I'm saying, it has nothing to do with the name of the move. I love everybody. Not everybody, but I don't, dislike any nation or skin color or something, but there are definitely people I hate with burning passion. But what I'm saying is Japanese necktie, stupid. D tier move. D tier move, no doubt about it for me. I just get it out of here. Get it out of here. I want nothing to do with it. I don't even want to get it out of my face. Honestly, why are we not just doing a Darce? What are we doing here? Right? Even like, it's my arms. No, it's not an arm length thing because you need longer arms to be able to chain grip and do it. It's stupid, dude. What are we doing? Don't do the Japanese necktie. You see more people miss Japanese neckties times 1,000 than you see people finish Japanese neckties. Do a Darce. Or do a short arm Darce, right? Which we just threw in with the Darce. We just kept those together. Japanese necktie. Yeah, get it out of here. Throw it in with the D's. Now we'll go with number 45, the Von Flue choke. This is interesting. This is a tough one. Because here's the thing. When you think about it from the fact that you are about to get submitted probably, and you can hit this, well, it's like for the situation, it's a double S tier. It's awesome. But you shouldn't be about to be getting submitted, brother. You shouldn't really be there. And so that's what makes it harder for me to rate the Von Flue higher than this. But I still think a fair tier for the Von Flue choke, I would say, is the B tier. Now we'll go on to the Kanto choke. Honestly, I don't even know which one of the Kantos it was that invented it. I have nothing against them. But it's a D tier move to me. It's not very powerful. You just don't see it used ever, right? I've seen it used. I've seen it caught at a really high level. You know, there was a famous one that was like Cron Gracie hit it on, might have been Gilbert Burns or something, like 2011 probably. But it wasn't even, I'm pretty sure it was actually a loop choke with the legs in the position. I don't think it was actually a concert choke. I don't know. I'm not trying to get into it. I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm just saying, you don't see him very often. Puts it in the D tier for me. Now let's look at number 47, the straight ankle lock. I think incredibly powerful move. I think some people could argue that it's an essential move to know, but like to be good at, which it's one of the best ways to start to learn other leg locks. But it's tough for me. Here's what's tough for me with a straight ankle. I almost kind of want to put it in S tier with the outside heel hook, because it can be as effective and it can lead to so many other things. And again, it's like when we look at the long term, we're looking at risk versus reward. The long-term reward of mastering straight ankle locks is learning to master most other leg locks. Most everybody that got good at leg locks and got really good will tell you they started with the straight ankle. And it's because you learn to control the legs that way. And so when we think about that, we're going long-term value, legal in any rule set ever, we're going straight ankle lock. We're throwing it in the S tier. Now we'll go, oh, dude, here's one that's just amazing, but we don't get to talk about it enough. We don't get to do it enough. It's illegal. It probably should be. It's gross. It's offensive. Shouldn't be this. But there was a time that I was doing a lot of mufflers, probably like brown belt to black belt, until I started realizing I was losing students because of it. And so like the muffler setup is typically that you get one arm trapped from the back, and then you end up in the situation where you have one arm trapped with your legs, you have the other hand gripped with your free hand, and then you end up with one arm fighting against none. And so people will tuck their chin. And so the muffler is you take your whole hand and you cup it and you cover their nose and mouth. And then no matter where their head goes, you just keep following until they look up high enough that you choke them. But what's even better is if you just asphyxiate them. Is that the one? Is that what I'm saying? Is you cover their nose and mouth, and then they risk dying, is what I'm saying. And so then they have to tap. That's the more fun one. And so the muffler, but like I said, it will actively lose you students, but it's also like there's no risk for it. If it's legal, there is no risk besides, like if it's self-defense, dude, bite your finger, huge risk. Don't do that. But he's most likely, if you trap his arm, he's most likely not expertly tucking his chin in a situation where biting's allowed, right? But yeah, with a rule set that protects you from biting but allows you to muffler, great position. I'm putting it in the A tier, boys. That's where we're going. That's where we're going with the muffler. I think that feels right. We're down to our last. Holy smokes, there's still a million. We just got done with 48. We're on to 49. And we're going with the Texas cloverleaf. Very, very little risk for this position. Not super powerful, though. A lot of guys eat that position. But it sets up the inside heel hook, which helps it so much. It's tough for me. I almost want to go A tier on the Texas cloverleaf, but not when it comes to finishing at a high level. People don't typically tap to the Texas cloverleaf, but and it's only one situation. I think we go B tier. I think we consider Texas cloverleaf. I wanted A tier, but I think we consider that a B tier move. Yeah, I think that's smart. Now let's look at the arm triangle. Honestly, the only reason that this is not double S tier is because it's not effective for everybody. I think that there's a size limit to it. You go with certain people that are just too big, it doesn't make as much sense to hit. And so, yeah, that's what I think about that. And so, yeah, the head and arm, man, it could be, you could easily say arm triangle, head and arm, whatever you want to call it. You could easily say that it is a double S tier move. I think people would argue that, but I'm going to just say there's just a strength requirement. Not that there isn't for all jiu-jitsu, but there's just a strength requirement that it makes sense to just chase the back then. For the person, you have more of a chance of finishing a rear naked choke or something. And so that kind of barrier of entry really hurts it for me. Now we'll go north-south choke. Not a ton of people make it effective, but the people that do, it is incredibly effective. And then it hits that criteria of it risks nothing, right? You see many people lose bad, even if the guy bellies down, it's like, well, there's still guillotines, there's still other stuff that I get to chase, right? And so I like it, but it still is just so hard to master. It makes me put it in the A tier and not the S tier. I think with just effectiveness, you could probably say once people make it effective, it can be an S tier, even a double S tier move, depending on who you're going with. But yeah, that's kind of, I think that's where I go on that. Now let's go with, we're back to Kesa Gatame. We're going to go with the Kesa Gatame arm lock. And so for me, I put this very, very similarly to the pressure. It's a great move. Not as many cool points, not as many style points as the Kesa Gatame pressure, but it's still just the risk to reward thing is that the risk of losing the position and getting the back taken, right? I think you can be great at the position and not have that happen very often, but it's just, if it does, that sucks, right? That's the problem with the risk. And when we start to go to the arm lock, sometimes we actually end up losing our position a little more. And so, yeah, the pressure is a little more secure, but I still keep it in B tier. But how I would have it is kind of how it's listed, is I would put Kesa Gatame pressure just higher up on the list of B tier. Now, where are we at now? The Gogoplata. Not everybody knows this one. But there was a heyday for this one too. The Meow Brothers have made this so effective. Hit this on so many different people at the high level. At the high levels, and have so many cool setups that you just don't see coming, and you're in these Gogoplatas and they're very tight. And so that has me ranking it as effective for sure. But you don't see it hit by many other people, right? It seems to be kind of harder to master, and you can also make the argument that the Meow Brothers have spent their careers mastering things that are very hard for other people to get good at. And so that, to me, doesn't rank it super high. It puts the Gogoplata in the C tier. And I could see you saying B tier, but I don't know. Make your own list. I think that we can say this one feels C tier to me. Now let's look at another leg lock. Very effective, still not super common. And I think you could argue that there are other attacks you could go for in this situation, but the Z-lock is kind of the completion of the reap of the legs. And man, if you've ever been Z-locked, it is a hip lock, and it'll destroy you. It'll ruin your life. And so that, for me, though, the only thing about the Z-lock is it's so situational. You need kind of a certain amount of steps to happen in a row for that to be available. And I just think that there are other leg locks to master over it. And I put it in the B tier. I could see pushing it up to the A in a second, but yeah, I've got it in the B. And there's some other leg locks that we'll get into in a second that I just have go into next. Our next B tier inductee is going to be the Estima lock. Can be incredibly effective, but it's just we're not seeing it be effective much anymore. It seems like that the defense is pretty much, you're seeing the defense there a lot. Some people still hit it. And when you hit it, of course, like I said, if you have anybody good at these submissions, they feel like S-tier submissions anyway. But I'm saying that certain ones of these leg locks are just not worth putting as much value in over other ones. Now let's look at reverse triangle. Okay, so reverse triangle meaning like north-south triangle. And so here is the only thing that keeps reverse triangle from being like D tier for me is that you can do it on top also, but still it's not a super effective submission on top even. It's very hard to create the angle to finish the triangle there without losing the person's head or their neck. And there's other submissions off of it, but it's also one of those positions that make people be able to make fun of jiu-jitsu easily and rightfully so. And so I think that the reverse triangle, we can put it in the trash where it belongs, man. I think we'll put reverse triangle as a C tier move. And only reason it gets that is because of its effectiveness from top and controlling on top. But and if you like do it to somebody and you have gas, then it's like 10 times more effective. Then it's a double S tier move. But that's the only reason it has that ranking. Now let's go Woj lock. So new on the scene, one of the newest submissions, if not the newest submission that is going to be on this list. And that is the Ye Ol' Woj lock. And that is from Chris Wojcik. It is a 50-50 straight ankle lock that you do not think is going to be there, but it is. It's kind of like a reverse Aoki lock would be the best way to explain it. Super duper powerful. I don't want to brag, but I would argue that I was tapped with a Woj lock before any of you guys even knew what it was. Not in competition. We've never competed against each other, but we've trained together actually quite a few times now. But feeling that Woj lock and Jeff Serafin and Chris Wojcik just sharing how that is done and just all their different takes on the straight ankle, man, such good stuff. I put it in the A tier, and the only reason it doesn't end up in the S tier is the situational. It's just a little more situational than a standard straight ankle lock. We could argue that you can hit a straight ankle lock with different leg entanglements than you could hit the Woj lock, right? And so that's the only argument I have. But I always I'm more worried about being biased and just being able to deliver the information to you guys. And so hopefully that's, I'm not like afraid of being biased, and it should be an S tier move, because man, it feels that way. It feels when you start to understand that move, and you've grown up in the situation where 50-50 was such a frustrating position because there was no attack on the trapped leg unless you could heel hook. I just thought, just very, very effective, very good move. Now let's look at another stupid one. I've heard people call this a scorpion lock. Also hear people call it the scorpion death lock. Scorpion death lock is a different thing made famous by Steve Boardman? I don't know. Regardless, this version of the scorpion death lock in the D tier. If we were talking about the real scorpion death lock, the sharpshooter hybrid, the scorpion death lock, double S tier. But the arm lock version of it, holy smokes, almost just dropped my coffee. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. I almost just threw my coffee on the floor. Yeah, don't do the scorpion lock or whatever it is. Don't. If you could hit that, you could have hit 10 submissions that were simpler. Master those to use them effectively on good people. That should be, if your focus is long-term, that should be your focus. Now let's look. People will be mad at this one. Triangle. People will be mad at this one. TP choke. I mean, just a little bit better than the Scorpion Lock. We'll put it in the C tier. TP choke is get better at the triangle, bro, or switch to Omoplata. It's going to be more power there anyway. But the TP choke is such a move that works on blue belts and purple belts that people start to go, this is the best way to do this. And then they get so sold out for the position, and then it stops working because guys who are good don't get, if you're good enough, if the guy's legitimately good enough to defend your triangle, not just you weren't good enough to actually lock up a triangle, but you're good at locking up triangles and they're good enough to defend it and they're stumping you on all kinds of defenses, the TP choke ain't going to be the answer, brother. Come on. Less control is not going to be the answer, bro. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts on TP chokes. We throwing them in the C's. Okay. So now we have the Ezekiel choke. Here's the thing about the Ezekiel choke. With the fall off from the back, like you're chasing the back or you're chasing the head and arm, that Ezekiel choke's pretty crazy overpowered. That Ezekiel choke's probably A tier, or if your game is built around back takes and you're an only gi guy, maybe S tier. That simple little Ezekiel when you're chasing the back on the head and arm side, so powerful. But besides just that one situation, it's not my favorite. I wouldn't put a ton of thought into mastering the Ezekiel choke. Like obviously it's a gi only move, but just, there's a no gi Ezekiel choke that people do, but I wouldn't put, unless you just want to have that niche game. I don't think I'm going to have that niche game. Man, I kind of still want to put it in the B because of how effective it can be on top. And I've seen guys build whole games, this is super niche. I don't even know if you guys know. This is so random, but I don't even know if he trains anymore. But I know a guy used to train named Drake on YouTube. You would know him as Styro Pyro, and I'm not sure that he still trains or not. But he used to have a vicious Ezekiel choke, and he would be on top close guard, putting out multiple people in a day at a tournament to sleep. And so it can be effective, and those type of things push it up a little more, push it into the B tier. And listen, if you're saying, Josh, you're totally wrong, it is a C tier position. It's useless. No one's good at it. You have never trained with people who lay bricks for a living, because those dudes Ezekiel chokes, they'll just cut your head off, bro. Their grip strength is insane. Or just, certain people who work with their hands for a living can Ezekiel choke you with a metal wristwatch, and they'll cut your head right off. Ezekiel chokes, bro. Baseball bat choke from bottom where you belly down and you risk it all. D. Stupid. Don't do it. Baseball back choke from top, creating the old angle, not bad. You can get finishes from that. So in general, we're going to put it in the C tier. The baseball bat. I think that there are times and places it can be effective, but man, don't be one of those guys that tries to spend 2 or 3 years only doing baseball bat chokes from the feet, belly down flat, because the problem with it is you will get short-term reward. You will, at white and blue belt, win a lot of matches from it. The problem is you will not win many matches after that, especially when you start to become known as a person that can only do that. It's very defendable, and then your back is taken. So the risk to the reward short term isn't there. Risk to reward long term isn't there. You're wasting time you could have spent getting good at something that's going to help you in the long run. And so that is that. So we're down to our last 5, just like we did last time. I made sure that we had one of our double S tiers in here. And so I'm going to go through all 5 that we have left. And if you have made it on the home stretch with me, man, you guys are wild, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching the show, especially this long and staying this engaged, and especially since you've obviously already given me a comment, and if not, you're just about to, and I appreciate that, and that you're subscribed and all that crap. But now let's look at the last 5, and one of these is a double S tier move. So we have the Kimura, the Guillotine, but from bottom side control, the Homer Simpson, and I'll explain what that is in a second if you don't know it, and the Choi Bar. Oh, and the Omoplata. And those are our 5. Okay? So now that we have talked about our 5, and obviously a few of these are very, very effective. The Homer Simpson, if you don't know what that is, Jordan Butler, can you tell these guys what the Homer Simpson is?
We renamed the choke to the Homer Simpson. We have teammates that might have been through that.
Right now.
They do not want to hear that shit. They do not want to be reminded of that while they're training.
Got it. He's in. 100%. It happens right now.
Stop calling it
Homer
that.
Simpson.
Stop fucking calling it
Yeah,
that.
the Homer Simpson, right?
Homer Simpson.
Thank you, Jordan. You're the man. I appreciate you, bro. So yeah, that's the Homer Simpson. Got to keep this video monetized, you know? And then the Choi Bar, a very, very overpowered kind of new meta position that's being used. And so now let's go ahead and we will let's go from worst to best. Obviously, the worst on this is the Omoplata. I'm just joking. It's the Guillotine, but from bottom side control. Guys, stop it. And this is we did 2 F-tier submissions. I don't think there are many totally F-tier submissions. The F-tier submissions are ones that you're going for in the wrong position, right? Remember, we talked about it. It's distance, it's angles. That is what sets up what submissions we get to go for. I don't get to go from a mounted armbar while I'm still in somebody's spider guard, right? I'm at the wrong distance. And so, when we're looking at this, you're not at a distance to be trying to guillotine choke people. So F tier for you bottom side control guillotine guys. Can't stand you. You're in the F tier. Enjoy your fate. And so now we're going to look at the old double-handed throat choke, the Homer Simpson, one time somebody called it the globe choke, like your hands are in a circle like the globe. I've heard that. That's stupid. But the Homer Simpson choke, great name for it. Honestly, more effective than people give it credit for. If it didn't have such a rough name, if we could change the name to the Homer Simpson, I promise you would use this more. And if rule sets would allow, and if you didn't claw people's throats, that's going to ruin it for all of us. And so just pressure their throat with your hands, just kill them. And so, Homer Simpson choke, as cool as it is, as funny as the name, it's still a B tier move. It's not A tier. Can be used well, can be used to pass the guard. One time I did it. I don't know if you're allowed to, but if you do it quick, you can do whatever you want. One time I did an IBGF at Nogi, and it was just quick. It was just like I was trying to pass a guy's guard, and he beat me on the underhook, and my hand just went really quick to pin him to his throat. And, I just pushed it hard really quickly just to flatten him. And I was going to go to pummel. But what was funny is I pummeled the underhook so easily because as soon as I went to choke him, his response was to go double-handed Homer Simpson on me. For whatever reason, he was like, no, don't do this to me. And he stopped doing jiu-jitsu and went to this hasn't happened, so I'm going to try to murder you. And I got the underhook and passed. But still B tier move. Not, this is the best I can do, I think. I think that's the best I have for it. Now we're down to our last 3. We have Kimura, Omoplata, and Choi Bar. And so to me, these are all 3 S tier or above. One of them is a double S tier. Which one is it? Is it the Kimura? Is it the Omoplata? Or is it the Choi bar? Now let's look at our last three contenders and what they have and what makes them our contenders. The Omoplata, obviously incredibly versatile, so many different attacks off of it. Hard to finish or learn to finish as an actual submission, but we've still seen guys get great at it, finish it at the highest level with all kinds of creativity. And one of the most beautiful things is one of the few positions that the risk to reward is actually better. You actually missing the submission tends to get you into a better place. So if I miss my omoplata, it's usually because I hit it and the guy rolled, and then I end up on top. And so I'm able to change the fight with the omoplata. The next thing that we have is the Kimura. Availability is one of the most important things about the Kimura, is you can pretty much use the Kimura effectively in any position that a person is going with you, unless they're on your back. Unless they're like both hooks on your back and they have that control. Anywhere else you can grab a Kimura and use it to be effective to some capacity. And so the universal, like that is probably the most beautiful part of the Kimura. And of course, you can use it to change positions. You can use it to pass the guard. You can use it to take the back. Incredibly, incredibly effective. But similar things like the Choi bar, you can also use to take the back. The Choi bar ties into some of the most effective leg locks that people deal with. And the Choi bar, you could argue, has so much set up from other people's offense. They're reaching for your head, and that is what sets up your Choi bar. And obviously, Choi bar is very, very effective in no-gi. Kimura's very effective in no-gi also. And then the omoplata, some people have made it effective in no-gi, but you see it more effective in the gi. And that is really, omoplata is so close to the double S to me, but it's going to be our first of these three in the S tier. And so we're going to take the omoplata, and it doesn't win, doesn't hit the double S tier. It's not our fifth double S. And so now we're looking between the Choi bar, the new meta, a lot of people say, and the Kimura. And for me, as negative, as anti-jiu-jitsu as it is, as much as maybe it seems like after having some negative Japan takes that maybe I'm trying to swing too hard in the other direction, we're putting the Kimura in the double S tier. It is effective in so many different situations. It is just absolutely one of the most essential things to learn as a control, as a way to pass, as a way to take the back, as a way to attack arm bars, as a way to attack shoulder locks, as a way to just flatten people, as a way to accomplish sweep people, accomplish so many tasks. One of the most versatile things. And so that means we're putting our Choi bar, incredibly effective too, in the S tier. But we still have our top 5 submissions. And so if you had to only learn 5 submissions and you just wanted to focus on all those things that we talked about, you want to be a well-rounded grappler, I think that all you would need is the 5 double S tier positions. You have your Kimura, you have triangles from bottom, you have guillotines, you have rear naked chokes, and our one leg lock we brought with us to the double S tier is the inside heel hook. So now we have our ability to be effective from pretty much every situation. And the nice thing too is a lot of these positions pair together well, and that's part of this double S tiers, like guillotines and Kimuras. You can hit a lot of those things combined with each other's Kimura and triangles also can be combined together. A lot of your back takes can come from Kimuras, and that will set up your rear naked chokes. And then, screw all that stuff. Why not just go for an inside heel hook, right? And so those are our S tiers, our double S tiers. Our S tiers we will have as our rear triangle, our darce, our straight ankle lock. And again, I think you could argue straight ankle lock should be a double S tier move. I think you could put it in there. You could even use it interchangeably if you don't want to learn that inside heel hook, but very, very effective. Then we have a head and arm choke, our arm triangle choke. We have our Choi bar in the S tier. We have our Omoplata in the S tier, our bow and arrow, our Aoki lock, our clock choke, our armbar from top, our, what does that say? Our outside heel hook. Sorry, I can't read and my eyesight isn't great. Our Brabo chokes, our toe holds, and our triangles from mount. Those are all S tier, meaning you are going to get great value out of dedicating time to any of these submissions. You can build a game around any of these submissions. Now we'll drop it one more tier. We'll go into our A tier. And so we have our low risk Americana. We have our loop chokes. We have, of course, our great and effective, again, low risk. You'll find a lot of low risk moves in the A tier because there's a lot of like tricks that we're through in this one, like the muffler. It's really just a trick if you can't get under the chin, if it's allowed. And muffler is in the A tier. Then we have our north-south choke. We have our Woj lock. We have our knee bar. We have our diesel squeezel. We have our anaconda choke. 2 different moves invented Midwest? We'll call it Midwest. Yeah, we'll invent it in the Midwest. We have our anaconda choke. We have our straight arm lock. We have our Tarikoplata. We have our Monoplata. We have our wrist lock. And we have our paper cutter choke. And so we've got the whole gambit there. We've got all kinds of great things in the A tier. But remember, the A tier is still, you're not going to go wrong building a game around these and adding these to your game. And a lot of these too with the A tier is a lot of them don't require crazy amounts of dedication of time still. That's when we start to go to the B tier. That was something that hung me up with a lot of things that get pushed in the B tier is the time dedication. That long-term risk to reward just was not there. And that's what pushed certain things into the B tier. And so the B tier was Kesa Gatame pressure. That was just short-term risk. I think it's a great position to learn. Arm bars from bottom. Obviously, we separated the Choi bar. We didn't do Choi bars from bottom. I think that's a much more effective arm lock that more people could implement into their game quickly, even though it's not essential jiu-jitsu move. It's not day one jiu-jitsu move that's supposed to be being taught. Then we have the Estima lock. Again, effective, but we're seeing it be less effective. We have the Ezekiel choke, effective, seeing it be less effective. These are things that you're not going to go wrong. You're not wasting time, but just the effectiveness of them there's starting to be some doubt in how effective these B tier moves are and how much you probably should build a whole game around it, unless you do have some physical specialty that makes sense to dedicate time to these. Okay. Some people do. Then we'll look Homer Simpson choke. That is also in our B tier. It can be effective, but again, do you want to dedicate that much time to it? The cross collar choke, those two, they're about the same amount of effort to learn to finish. And I've finished Homer Simpson chokes, not just used them to pass people, but yeah, those two are about the same. Gogoplata, again, we can dedicate our time, but we just don't know that's what we want to do. We have our electric chair here. We have our Suloev stretch. We have our Von Flue choke. We have our Texas Cloverleaf. We have our Kesa Gatame armbar, and we have our Z-Lock. In that B tier, everything is effective. Everything can be used at a high level, and we've seen all of those used at a high level. The problem, though, is that risk to reward starts to be there, or they just start to become so niche. They start to become like, man, you only catch this in a very, very specific situation, right? So like your Z-Lock and your Texas Cloverleaf. Do you really want to build an entire game off of moves that are more like subcategory moves? More like, man, I'm hitting my straight ankle locks, and then this Z-Lock situation is coming about, and then I can add it. But I'm so powerful on my straight ankle lock, I'm just going to the Z-lock because of the situation created versus I don't finish straight ankle locks, but I just try to force Z-lock and every once in a while I get those finished. The straight ankle lock was probably there earlier is kind of my point on that. And so now we'll look at C tier moves. Moves, again, we've seen them work. You'll see a lot of great Instagram and YouTube moves in this. And so that's why people will be offended by the C tier. But it's just, we're talking about long-term being effective, being able to stay on the mat for a long time and be good, be able to get submissions on the mat, right? And so with our C tier, we're starting with our banana split. We're going into our head scissors, which again, I think is cool. Not dedicating, not thinking I use it. I don't ever teach it. I'm not like, guys, you need to add this, right? Reverse triangle. Don't forget, you're an ambassador to jiu-jitsu. Don't make it weird. TP choke, also in the C tier. Baseball bat choke in the C tier. And the only thing that pushes it up into the C tier is doing it from top. Peruvian necktie. Some people make it effective, but I still think so few do. It puts it in the C tier. Bicep slicer. Some people make it effective. Some people eat it, though. It's just not, doesn't seem to be a position worth dedicating a lot of time to. Twister, it's just too niche. It's just too hard to get into that perfect position and get that timing down. The same goes for the Bulldog choke. Calf slicer should be higher for everything but long-term risk. It's just too much. I'm not going to give you guys a longevity video and about submissions and then tell you like, oh yeah, we're going to put calf slicers at an A tier, right? And they, effectiveness-wise, they really could be. But it's just the injury risk. It's just not worth it to me. And so that's what keeps it there. Now we are at, already did a Bulldog choke, calf slicer. Where's zipper choke? We have zipper chokes, mirror locks, and Barato-Pilatas all in the C tier. Honestly, I think that's our only move that we'll tweak. I think Barato-Pilata probably deserves B tier when you look at it compared to everything else on that C tier list. We're moving Barato-Pilata up to the B. But yeah, I think everything else will keep it C tier. They're just, I think we're starting to get, they're catchable, but they're just getting too niche. You just shouldn't dedicate a lot of time. You can learn these, go to a class that teaches these. Don't dedicate 6 months to them, though. Don't dedicate years of your jiu-jitsu to them. It doesn't make sense. Honestly, we could do without these. The D tier, we have our ninja chokes, our hammerlocks, our buggy chokes, our Japanese neckties, our kanto chokes, and our scorpion locks. All D tier. Throw them out. Learn a video. Google each one. We'll watch a 5-minute video on how to defend each one. Never have to worry about them again. You're not going to get surprised from them. And then F tier, if we wanted to, could just be stuffed full of stupid stuff that people do. But F tier right now is just Americana from somebody's closed guard when you're on top, and then guillotines from bottom side control. If you wanted one more that we would throw in F tier, it would be when you do a bow and arrow choke, but you try to choke the person with the grip under their armpit. So you're not choking them at all. And like sometimes you'll even get the tap from the actual just broken spine that they have from you trying the bow and arrow choke so horribly. But if you wanted one more F tier, that's one. Besides that, that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, I hope you did. I enjoyed making this. This was fun. It's fun to do this tier list and just to have a different format that we're doing. If you guys like the format thing, let me know. Give me some other ideas on what formats or what tier lists we can run with and what tier lists we can for jiu-jitsu can use. And it just seemed like people found the last one helpful. And that's what I really cared about, is that like if we can have guys feeling like this is helping them in the podcast, is like each week there is fun and entertaining as it is, but each week you're going to get a piece of information that can help you look at jiu-jitsu in a different way and that can ideally help you in the long term. That's what I hope for each time we do a podcast episode. And I feel like the tier list really hit all those notes, right? So if you're new here, which it seems like a lot of people are, I really appreciate you guys tuning into the show. But how the show works is pretty much go off of your guys' suggestions and your guys' ideas, and we just present. And so the other thing that we have coming up soon is I've just about enough hot takes for a hot take hotline, the first ever hot take hotline episode. Meaning, if you were to call 951 hot take right now on your phone, you would hear me say something like, "Hey, it's Josh. I need a hot take from you. Tell me your belt, tell me where you're from, or keep it anonymous and give me a hot take." And I've gotten some really funny ones from people who are kind of getting the idea, and they can leave a hot take that will be played on the show. And then of course I'll interact with it to some capacity. But also there are hot takes and suggestions being texted to us too. And we're just using the hotline for all that. So again, that's 951 hot take. And yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. And of course I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. I would love to hear what you thought about this list and where were my big misses? What were the parts of this list that you're like, no, that shouldn't be an S tier, that shouldn't be an F tier, you're totally off on it. And so, yeah, if you guys can see where I was wrong, I would love to hear about it. But besides that, thank you guys for checking out today's episode. And I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.